So calling to order the April 13th, 2026 meeting of the Beacon City School District Board of Education. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vicki, can you call the roll?
Mr. Shammy?
Here.
Ms. Urson?
Oh, that's right, excused. I think she did say she was not coming.
Mr. Lewine?
Delayed.
Ms. McNair?
Here.
Mr. Shutter?
Here.
Ms. Hewer?
Here.
Ms. Statler?
Here. Matt, can you review the fire exits?
Exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. Please stand for a moment of silence for Judith Abligiato. I'm sorry if I said that incorrectly. She was with the Beacon City School District for 30 years, working in security. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session to seek legal counsel for negotiations with the Beacon Paraprofessionals Association and Beacon Association of Office Personnel, and to review the employment history of a particular individual? The board will return in about 45 minutes. Does that sound right?
No, I guess 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In about an hour then.
So moved.
Second? Meredith? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll be back around 7. So I am sitting down here all by myself, calling the meeting back to order because we have a special presentation. We are going to be introduced to the cast of Jekyll and Hyde, which is the latest show here at Beacon High School. And so I am going to join my other board members in the audience, and without further ado, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Strong, and this is Jonah Espinosa, the president of Beacon Players. Plus, he's had a few fairly good roles in the past, like the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, Don Quixote in La Mancha, Enjolras in Les Miserables, and Laurie in The Wind. Well, now he's taking on probably one of the hardest roles in theater, which is a dual role of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and at the risk of he's amazing. And we are also very grateful for all your support all the time. We're going to introduce Jonah. He's going to say a few things, and then we're going to bring in the cast. They're going to try to do the opening song from the show. Now, the set. And please feel free to pop in at any time and think of what you say. It's somewhat bigger than this. So if somebody knocks into the next person, just keep going.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you for the introduction. As I said, I'm Joe Espinosa. I just wanted to first and foremost thank everyone here for everything that you've done for arts in Beacon. And I've been personally affected by it because of how much passion and the emphasis that you all have put towards it. It's changed my life, and I know so many out there. And you'll see that in the performance today. And in honor of that, we also wanted to invite you to our show, April 24th, 25th, and 26th. Free tickets, whichever works best for you, whatever work date works best, +1. And but yeah, everybody has been working so hard on this show. It means so much to everyone out there. They really put in the time and effort every day, 6 to 9, whether they want to or not. It's about the several hours that they put in, and because of the time and the money and just all the support that you guys have shown for us, it genuinely means the world. I go to other schools and they don't get a quarter of what we have. And that just, it's changing people's lives in ways that I don't know if you guys truly can can see firsthand, but we're seeing it, and like I'm seeing 8th graders from Rombout performing here, and they're like, oh, I saw Les Mis a few years ago, and it's changed me, and I want to do this, that, and the other. And it's just the future that you're creating and helping create through all of your support is life-changing. So we just want to thank you for that, and hopefully you can come see our show if you have time, and hopefully you enjoy it. So now I'll call him in, and we'll start the performance. Enter quietly. But yeah, the space here is a little tight.
We will adapt.
We will adapt.
Nobody bites. Can you remove the speaker maybe? Dancing. You have never been that quiet, going anywhere. And so imagine there's double doors in front of them that will fly up and all sorts of mechanical things going on that our crew have been really working hard to accomplish. The lab will blow everybody away. And maybe some of the raising prices. Okay, why don't we try? Do your best. Go.
Like today, society's not society's way. That is all of the thought. There's a mystery hiding that nighttime appears. What's hiding inside behind all of our fears? Themselves locked inside the facade.
Every day, people in their own streets pray, lie to wear the coats of peace and be what they ain't. In this place, living out a masquerade, acting up a sorcery while playing the saints. But there's one thing I know, and I know it for sure. This disease that we've got has no ready cure, and I'm certain life is terribly hard when your life's of the start. Look around you, I have found you cannot tell by looking at the surface what is lurking there beneath it. See that face now, I'm prepared to bet you what you see's not what you get, 'cause man's a master of the seas. So what is the sinister secret? The lie he will tell you is true.
Street isn't one man, but
Nearly everyone you see like him and her and you and me pretends to be a pillar of society, a model of propriety, sobriety, and piety, who shudders at the thought of notoriety. The ladies and gents here before you, which none of them ever admits. They have sacred looks, but they're sinners and crooks, hypocrites. There are preachers who kill, there are killers who preach, there are teachers who lie, there are liars who teach. Take a pen here, 'cause it's all of the side.
Be rich and have money to burn, even though it's a bitch, spending more than you earn. That's the game here.
And the name is facade. One or two might look kind of well to do. Ha! But I bet your precious few have paid for their room. Half mankind, face the other half sing. They don't ever complain, and the answer is it's all of his heart. That his number two is able and good, and he walks the fine line. We don't cross if we could. Look behind the facade. What's behind the facade?
Look behind the facade.
So the show is about good and evil and how it's the duality of man. It's a fun art.
It's a very
So we would truly love it if you can see the whole thing the right way. Good job. All right, we can go back now.
Yeah, come to the dress. Yeah, what? Gotcha.
Is this your phone?
You're in charge of that part.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Sorry. It's the money.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
Board comments.
All right, are we all back? Okay. Oh, that was so fantastic. Thank you so much. I love when we get to have exciting things like that during a meeting.
He got into court.
Yeah, we should.
There's special acting year.
So next is open to the public, although I don't know why anybody would want to follow that act. It doesn't look like we've got anybody that's going to try. So we will move on to our workshops for the night. We have our budget presentation.
How's it get up on
I think he just went to sleep.
that? Yeah, thank you, and that was amazing from the Beacon Players, and definitely a super tough act to follow. So it goes without saying. All right, so tonight we're going to try to accomplish a few different things. One is we want to talk about what some of the successes of our budgeting process over the last many years has been, and the cumulative effect of that. We're going to talk a bit about some different ways to get at a $250,000 cut. We are going to talk, Anne Marie's going to go through some of the different parts of the budget. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some much smaller things that we haven't discussed a lot. And that's towards the end of the presentation. At any point, we don't have to wait till the end for questions. Just go. This can be super informal. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's it. I do just want to say a few things to begin. One is I feel like this slide here, it's super busy, and I know slides aren't supposed to be super busy. I asked for it to be this way because we wanted to create a one-pager of things that we are proud of. These are things that I do not take individual responsibility for. Some of these things have been in place for a long, long time. Many of them are newer arrivals, but it's things across our elementary, middle, and high school level that we're really proud of. I think our principals this year did an outstanding job presenting features of their school that they wanted to highlight to the board. And I think each of those presentations were grounded in student experience, were grounded in data, but also grounded in some of the things that make us unique as a district and stuff that we're really, really proud of. And so again, I'm not going to read any of the bullets, but we probably, I may at different points kind of flash back to this slide just to reference some things. So we made a list, and I didn't make this chronological because some of these things took place over a couple of years, but we made a list of some things that we've added to the budget over the past 9 years. And so I just wanted to preface this slide with just a couple of thoughts. One is, and perhaps I need to knock on wood for this, but every year, this time of year, if I open up my news feed, I see different districts that are trying to close anywhere from like a $2 million gap to, depending how big they are, a over $10 million gap in their budget process. And again, I'm knocking on wood, I'm a superstitious person, but that's not something that we've had to do over the last 9 years. I think a lot of that is due to, we definitely always try to grow and gain in each budget, but we also try to do things in kind of a deliberate and careful process. I've said this in previous years that when we start something, we don't like to have to claw it back. It's just something that I've kind of based a lot of at least my budget leadership on. And so as I'm looking at this, because we were putting this together last week, I'm realizing that there's even a couple things missing from this. But so one of the things I think is a kind of a foundation of the way we've tried to budget is kind of slow and steady improvement in terms of adding programs and adding positions. The other thing that I've really tried to do, and I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with like the doing things in a slow, deliberate sort of way, and I don't want to sound judgmental about other things, is this isn't something that I've believed in strongly back when I was a principal, is I try not to pit things against each other. I try not to kind of leverage the different parts of the community sort of to create like a budget battle. And by saying this, like I don't try to sort of float cuts, potential reductions to try to get people to come out to try to pit sort of constituencies against constituencies. I'm not arguing that people purposely do that, but I do see that a lot, and that's something that we've always tried to avoid. So with this, with the request from Merrick about reducing by $250,000, I kind of purposely didn't put slides where I was specifically talking about people's positions getting cut, because even though we're late in the budget process, I wanted it to feel a little bit more hypothetical and not cause panic among some of our staff. That said, it's something that I've put a lot of thought towards, and just wanted to kind of start the presentation with this before we get into the rest. So just to kind of talk about process, we talked about April 24th being when you report our tax levy rate to the state property tax report card. So we still have time if we want to make an adjustment. We, on our slides in this presentation, have the tax rate at the tax cap, just because that's what's been discussed. If the board agrees to lower that, we just obviously would change that and communicate that to the public, whether that happens tonight or if we want to add an additional meeting on before the 24th. So those are just some of my budget beliefs in terms of like the way I've always tried to approach this. So that said, at the last meeting, I did say like to achieve that $250,000 reduction, and I know I'm repeating myself, but the thing I would recommend, and I'll get into alternatives, but the thing I would recommend is to hold off on the middle school 9-period day schedule expansion, which would be about that amount of money. just because it's something that we haven't done. It's something that we could spend another year studying. It's something that we would not be having to sort of reduce staff, to achieve that number. But there's some other ways to do it. So just looking at this, based on those things I said are my beliefs, I would not start this and just say, we're just going to do away with one of those bullet points and we'll get it, because all of these things are things that we spend a lot of time thinking about, and a lot of these things, or not a lot, all of these things have been thought through in terms of the way they benefit students. But I just want to talk a little bit about each one, and then I'll talk about what my other recommendation would be. So 9 years ago, we had an elementary special schedule that was a 6-day rotation. PE met twice in those 6 days, twice. There was art in there, music in there, library was in there. I'm missing the 6th thing. We moved it to a 4-day to increase the amount of PE, music, and art pretty much across the board for all elementary. For all elementary schools, the 4-day rotation has students going to PE 2 or 3 times a week, has students going to art every 4, music one of the 4. It's probably the most rich rotation, or one of the most rich rotations in Dutchess County. A lot of our sort of not rival, but a lot of the other elementary schools do a 5 or 6 day rotation. Moving back to that would save staff, but it would, I think, immediately be seen as a reduction in the amount of time students are in those specials. Elementary class size reductions, our average was around, I want to say 2021, 9 years ago. Over that time, we added about 6 to 7 teachers, just kind of across all the elementary schools, to bring our average down to between 18 and 19. Obviously, there's a range with that, as we've talked about at the beginning of this year. But that was probably one of our biggest initiatives. These are just some of the community partnerships we have. The Common Ground Farm Partnership involves some of their experts coming to our classrooms, and also some school visits to the farm. That's around $25,000. The Land to Learn one is a longstanding relationship with the gardens that are each elementary school. It's half grant funded and half funded by BCSD. Our portion is 60 or more. Okay, our portion is about $100,000. That mostly goes to staffing. A grant pays for the other half of that. We have just a really kind of early stages relationship with Compass Arts. We've kind of budgeted up to $20,000. We haven't used that much, but like South Avenue has a play / musical tomorrow that's debuting, and that is in part in that relationship with Compass Arts. We also have the Clearwater experience for our 3rd graders. We have the Sharp experience for our 5th graders. We have the DIA experience for our 2nd graders. We have the Calico Ball experience for our 3rd graders, and all of those things are district funded. Over the last 6 or 7 years, we've increased mental health supports. We've added 2 social workers to the high school. We've added a guidance counselor to Rombout. We have added a school psychologist just recently to the elementary level. We've actually added a couple over the years. One that is, I think, pretty unique across the county is we, about 5 years ago, really expanded extracurricular type clubs at the elementary level and the middle level. High school always had a strong club experience for the students. Middle school had some clubs. We've hugely expanded that at the middle school level, and we have kind of started from 0 at the elementary level. I think each of the schools maybe had kind of like one club each that just a few kids attended. As you remember from the principal presentations, it's something that we probably are close to 60-70% of elementary students are participating in at least one of those. And that's something we've taken on. There's a lot of research, I've talked about this before, that extracurriculars really help students connect to school in really powerful ways. I think starting it early starts to build that habit. 4 years ago, we added the second assistant director of PPS. That wasn't just sort of just a kind of whim sort of thing. This person Now that they have a person chairing all the meetings at the secondary level and a person chairing all the meetings at the elementary level. School psychologists used to do some of that work. We brought an administrator to do that, and they also do a lot of other things, working with parents and teachers directly outside of all of those CSE meetings as well. The last 3 years, we've added teachers on special assignment to focus on literacy. We have 2 right now. The last 3 years, we've added a math intervention teacher at each of the elementary schools. One was grant funded for a few years, but now we're taking over the funding of all of those. And then in the middle of this year, we've added to address issues we were having with instructional co-teaching models at the elementary level. We added 4 special education teachers to assist with that. The one bullet point that I just totally missed in my preparing for all this is the 9-period day at the high school. We added 4 years ago, and that was about 3 positions worth of either teacher or additional class preps that we've added. So we've managed to do all of this stuff within our tax cap. Every single year, we've managed to do all of these things without having to cut somewhere else. So we're really proud of being able to take a lot of these things on. I think all of them have been really a huge value. So in terms of if my initial recommendation, if we want to reduce by $250,000, my initial recommendation still sticks with I would want to hold on to these things and hold off on doing the middle school 9-period day for a year. But I think there's some ways to go about this, looking at this list. I think we could look at the elementary class size very carefully, and possibly through attrition, we could do like a position this year, pull back out in a position next year. It would have an impact on class size. It would push class size up a little bit at a couple of our schools in a way that wouldn't be unnoticed, but it would be a way that would be through attrition of people who are retiring. We could look at the elementary. I try to look at things with like how sort of the least, what I would deem the least impact. So I would look at the extracurricular expansion at the elementary and middle. When we started this 5 years ago, there's a lot of stipends that go into this with a lot of different teachers and staff. At the high school level, we were spending a bit over $100,000 to do all the clubs and extracurriculars. Adding and actually, if I add what was currently at the middle school, is about 120. Adding, expanding the clubs at the middle school level, and expanding, creating all the clubs at the elementary level was another 80,000. So we could go back to doing a lot less at the elementary level, and that would be a savings of about 50,000. And then I would take a look at some of the community partnerships and not eliminate them, but find ways to spend less on some of them. Some of them are ones that I don't think we'd be able to, cut back on because they're traditions that are decades long, and I wouldn't want to recommend that. But we could look at like the Common Ground Farm one and the Compass Arts one and get about $25,000. So if I do $50,000 from extracurriculars at the elementary level, about $25,000 from the community partnerships, 1 teacher position, so that gets me to about 150 right now. I would probably look at, it would be hard for me to get 2 elementary teachers out this year. We have one sort of clean way of doing it, like in terms of someone retiring. Beyond that, it would be a little bit more painful, and so I would look possibly at Roundabout, not the 9-period day, but I would look at maybe special ed services at Roundabout and possibly do a reduction there. Again, I'm not trying to, freak anybody out. I'm not trying to, that wouldn't be changing kids' IEPs or the services they're receiving. This is, something I've been kind of struggling with for like the last 3 weeks or so, trying to come up with this. I do think looking at elementary class sizes, the community partnerships, and the extracurricular expansion would be the way to get to close to $200,000. The tricky part about the elementary class size one is I think those reductions I would need 2 years to kind of get maybe 2 teachers out of that. And the special education increase, we're looking to see if we're going to always need that number of teachers. So there may be a decrease there in the future, like in not the 26, 27, but maybe the 27, 28. So it's tough for me because I almost would want to have to do these reductions over 2 years to make it a little bit less impactful. So I would look at elementary class size to get a position out of there. I would look at the community partnerships to get I would start with 25,000 reduction there. And then I would look at about a $50,000 reduction in the extracurricular expansion. So that really is just 150 right now. I'm trying to look for another position that would probably be a position at Roundabout that isn't about the 9-period day. That's where I would start. There's one last way to do it, and that would be, and I may need Anne-Marie to come in and sort of pinch hit on this explanation, but we talked to our financial advisors about the capital project. The way to do it there is to basically defer the debt payments. So we would essentially be pushing, like the reason why our tax levy rate is higher right now, is higher last year, and will be higher the next 2 years, is the capital project that we are in the midst of doing. If we deferred our work on the debt with that to next year, that would bring our tax levy rate down to 3.8, but it would make the next year over 5. So it's just sort of pushing it off a year. So I'm happy to kind of like drill down a little bit on this. The one thing I'll say with like all of our other departments, first I'll talk about the administrative unit. I know Hyde Park is a bigger district than us, but they're not that much bigger. They have, I think, about 800 more students. They probably, the last time I counted, they have about 9 more administrators than we do for a somewhat similarly sized district. The reason I'm pointing that out is oftentimes with like public feedback in any community, one of the first things is cut administration. I would argue that we're probably one of the leaner administrative groups around. I don't really say this jokingly, although sometimes it comes out that way. Most of our administrative positions are required by law or regulation. We're not adding a lot of fluff there, so the administrative group is one that I would not want to touch. We're always, over the past few years, we do this fairly quietly, but we look at all of our departments for savings because they're not directly impacting students, so we're constantly looking at like our facilities department, transportation, not cutting people's jobs, but like through attrition perhaps, not always filling things. Like we're always looking for ways to sort of hold back spending in some other departments that aren't instructional. We're always trying to kind of keep the instructional thing whole. So, I mean, obviously I had trouble getting to 250. That's clear. I've been kind of talking about this with Anne-Marie and other members of my team for the last 2 weeks. I would have trouble with anything on this list beyond the ones I said, and the ones involving teacher positions are tricky. But I have trouble kind of saying like we could reduce these sort of bulleted items, like we could pull back right away. Again, I do, and I know this is now like the 3rd or 4th time I've said this, I do think the way to achieve this, I think it's the way I've always tried to approach the budget work we've done is the way I would try to achieve this is holding back on the Roundabout 9-period day, and just giving us more time to deal with that if we wanted to bring the tax levy rate under 4. That's that would be my recommendation. These others are harder to get at.
One thing you didn't mention,
Yeah.
that I think is like one of these things that I don't think I think we take for granted a little bit is the money we put into the technology department in terms of staffing, et cetera, which is a place that I feel like gets more complicated and vulnerable every year, and the cost of not investing in that can be so huge financially and in terms of just like privacy issues. And that was a big push in the last budget, so just wasn't on the slide, so I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally a brain slip on my part that I don't have a bullet point for the 9-period day at the high school. So if we did like a one teacher position at the elementary level, which is roughly 75, and we did like a $25,000 reduction in the community partnerships, and we reduced the elementary and some of the roundabout clubs by about 50,000. I would probably look to the high school 9-period day, and if we wanted to keep doing the roundabout 9-period day, we would look to do both those 9-period days in like a less, that could be a way to do it, like a less sort of rich maybe is not the right word, but like more study hall sort of way. That's a way to get that 150 up to 250. We could cut deeper into the club thing.
Can I,
Some of these, just really quickly, like the elementary class size thing is something that we kind of monitor every single year. And, last year, we didn't have an increase in the number of elementary students. And and we're not just going to keep adding elementary teachers to that. The special education increase was one that, enabled us to serve elementary students' IEPs better. But that's something that we're going to monitor over the next few years to see if we will still need all of those positions. I just can't for next year. We've already been through the planning for next year. Those are not any that I can pull back on. The elementary class size, if I pulled a teacher out of that, it's not nothing. It would impact class sizes at one of our elementary schools too. I want to be clear, like I hope I'm not appearing to be difficult with this or that I'm playing games with you. This is something I've probably been the primary thing on my mind over the last 3 weeks. I just, I feel the way I feel on this, that like the way I've always approached this is, if we're having an issue with the budget, then we hold off on the new thing and we keep the things that we've done. That's always kind of been my guiding principle. And that could be wrong too. But that's always the way I've tried to approach it. There's like small things that we're looking to do, but I hate putting a price tag on it. We, years ago, 4 or 5 years ago at high school athletic games in the area, there was a lot of violence. Not at Beacon, but there was some really impactful violence, like a student lost their life at a neighboring school after a football game. Like there was just a lot of things happening. So we really beefed up like the number of people we have at our games, from security to teacher chaperones to administration to sometimes we partner with Beacon Police Department. That's already an area where we're looking to not ever compromise safety, but we're looking at pulling that back a little bit for next year. But I don't quite have a price tag on it, but it's not going to be a huge number. We're looking at field trips, not ones that are just really tied to day-to-day curriculum, but we have some field trips that we're probably thinking of maybe not doing next year, possibly at the middle school level. Nothing huge. We'll get a little bit of savings there. We do this every year. I don't do a lot of this publicly because we're always trying to find ways to save sort of behind the scenes. That's like less of a thing. So again, just to go back to the basics, I didn't want to put like a list of direct sort of cuts because I didn't want individuals worried about jobs. I also, like I said, I try not to sort of lead budgets this way because I don't like pitting constituency groups against each other. Getting to 250 without pulling back on the roundabout thing, I think is almost more of a 2-year thing. That would be our effort in terms of looking at teacher positions at the elementary level and within the special education department, and also decreasing community partnerships and the extracurricular stuff at Roundabout in elementary school. So it would kind of take us 2 years to get to beyond 250, but that's what I would be looking at.
Can we
I can
talk-
keep moving, but I think we probably should stay here for a little bit, or?
Yes.
Can we just talk about that debt, the debt deferral?
Yeah.
So, we're at 4.47. If you're saying if we defer, we go to 3.8. Next year, you're saying it could be around 5.
We were at 5 last year, so
Right.
it's a good indication, because we'd have to spread more of it
Got it.
over the next 2 years.
So what I'm thinking is, if we defer the debt, we do the 9-period day, and then next year, maybe we need, then if we're at 5, then maybe we need to look at, I'm just throwing things out there, the 9-period day at the high school, or then we look at other things, because I'm not in favor of cutting extracurriculars at the elementary or middle. I think the class size is a discussion to be had. I do think that's warranted, but like when I hear those numbers, that's not like a huge jump to me, like 4.47 to 5 to next year, but then maybe looking at a way of maybe doing some reductions to get it down to 4.47. I don't know which is better or which is worse. I don't know. I think the 9-period day is very important.
And
I
I
also-
want to be clear, I'm not trying to make any of you in favor of cutting like elementary clubs. I'm looking at things that like what doesn't directly impact like the classroom
Right.
instructional part.
I get that.
As a former elementary parent, I love them. I think it connected my son to school in different ways that he hadn't thought of before. I think other people feel that way too. So I'm not trying to position you all to, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I kind of listed these things, and it's on me for forgetting the 9-period day one, because I know I was talking about it. But like, that's where I would be looking to like make reductions. And the reason why I don't have non-instructional departments up there is we're always kind of, we're always looking at those to, tweak here or there, like, because we don't like touching the classroom part. The elementary, one of the challenges with elementary class size is it's getting to the point where, South, Sargent, and Forest will kind of just run like a 2 classes per grade kind of thing. And so it's hard to be like, hey, we'll pull a teacher out of one of those schools, because then you have, like it's like you have this unwieldy number. Glenham is bigger, so Glenham has a little bit more fluidity with the number of teacher sections they have, because they're around 400 students. Sometimes they have 3 classes per grade, sometimes they have 2, sometimes they have 4. That's rare, but like they kind of go up and down. So you can do a little bit at Glenham with that. But that's that's just with what Eric was saying about reducing, could the debt be reduced? I know your goal is to get under 4, but could the debt be reduced like less to like 4 point, where the levy rate would be 4.1 or 4.05 or something like that? Like, is it adjustable?
Yes. So we only have we have 4 years to raise the levy enough to pay the debt, because that's the schedule of the capital project. So we have to have the money by the time we bond at the end. But that was a number that I had given to BPD, our financial advisors. So yes, the debt could be less. We could take more debt off and build it over the next 2 years. That would reduce the cap to get us wherever it is that you want it to be. It also doesn't leave any money on the table. So the other worry is we could cut things from the budget and reduce the levy. The debt has a bigger impact because it's part of the capital exclusion calculation, so it's an add back, so that's, my only worry was, last year, it was tough for people to face a 5%. I know neighboring districts are having that issue this year. I didn't know if that would then become a problem next year and the year after for people, by us deferring it this year, and then, you know, pretty sure that it would be over 5% because we're taking more debt and deferring it over 2 years. That was the only concern.
I mean, one of
I
the,
think assuming that because we defer this debt to next year, that we can find money next year to lower it is a really huge assumption.
I agree.
I'm not comfortable with that, I have to say. Like,
Okay.
I feel like that's irresponsible, and all we know is that things are getting more expensive and interest is growing and all of these things, and so that just feels a little bit irresponsible to me. And I feel like everything that you listed is something that, you know, that would really impact our students. These are all things that I think have really improved the student experience, the staff experience. And I just feel very strongly that none of that should be on the table for cutting. I mean, let's remember, this is a sort of self-imposed cut. This isn't a cut that we're facing because of the tax cap and the state aid, which make our budget. We're also, I want to point out, we're talking about dollars at a certain point. It's like, well, okay, if we can lower it to between, you know, 4.4 and then down to 4.3, we're talking like under $10 per family. It's really
That's the other thing.
versus an entire program that I think would really improve the experience at the middle school. So for me, none of that is, I am very sympathetic to the burden of paying taxes. However, I feel like the cuts we're talking about making here are so gigantic compared to the savings that each family would have that it's not even noticeable compared to their like overall tax bill.
That is the other thing. You bring up a really good point. I wanted to talk about the other side of the number, where it's like, there's a percentage, but there's also like what that percentage represents for households. And just to reiterate, it's like for every $100,000 that you cut from the district, it's like from the average tax bill, it's a $10 savings. Is that correct?
that's the,
So the potential
We're
tax
jumping ahead,
impact, with the higher levy is 213, 213, and 245. Now, I always say that at this point, doing the budget presentation, because I use last year's assessments. And as we know, it goes up every year because we've seen our tax rate per thousand go down every year because there's more properties to spread the tax levy over.
Sure.
So this would, to me, would be worst case scenario. So this, if we stayed at the current tax cap, and that would be the financial impact for a year, but that could only get better because we don't know what the new assessments are. We don't know the new properties that are coming on the tax rolls, and we won't know that until after the budget vote. But you're correct. At the last meeting, we talked about what the impact would be on a $250,000 cut, and it was $10 a month for the average taxpayer. It wasn't a lot of money.
and, you know, last year we had a slide at the May meeting, and we don't have the data from the other school districts to run it right now. But we did a median home value, what someone in Beacon pays, what someone in Wappingers pays, what someone in Arlington, Spackenkill, and Hyde Park. And, you know, Wappingers was the closest to us. They pay about 20% more. But Spackenkill pays about 50% more, like in a similar house and school tax. Arlington is even higher than that. It's probably about 55% more. Hyde Park, a little bit higher than that, probably 58% more. Like, these are the districts. When I say competing, I'm not talking about like on the, you know, the athletic field. It's like these are who we're competing with for staff and you know, most. I forget, I attended this meeting a few years ago, and it provided me with great clarity around the hiring process, but it was like most districts in Dutchess, their teachers come from Dutchess, not all, but most, and so we're all kind of competing against the same, you know, districts for the same people. So those districts, you know, a similarly priced house, they're paying not incrementally more, but they're paying exponentially more in yearly taxes than we are. We'll run that for the May meeting, you know, whatever we decide with this. And again, I keep doing these mea culpas and I'll stop, but like I don't, I don't try to play you guys. I don't try to play games with this kind of stuff. It's been a slog for me looking at the list, trying to sort of like figure out ways to get there. You know, and like I think I would need 2 years to do it without really big impacts. But they would still be noticed, like it would still impact like what we do instructionally. It wouldn't be nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so sorry, I'm gonna go give everyone a headache.
I think the other thing that I want to mention that I brought up last year also is that, you know, this is the system we've inherited, but if we don't go to the tax cap, we're leaving money on the table. And we know that our state aid has steadily gone down because Beacon has become wealthier. It doesn't necessarily reflect our school district demographic, but it reflects Beacon, I guess. But, you know, what we risk, I think, is having to go over the tax cap in a few years because we haven't been just sort of gradually growing the budget in the way that this system was intended.
We've been trying to, from afar, we've been trying to analyze other districts. I'm not going to name them, but there's, you know, it's in the news a lot right now about districts that have pretty big budget gaps.
Yes.
And what we've been able to ascertain is, you know, some districts with the, I call it the COVID money, but, you know, some districts did a lot of staffing with that. We chose not to, you know, like just fund new positions with that. We did other more sustainable things like, and I mean, that's a big one, I think, that's been feeding the gaps you're reading about. But I think it's other things too, and I think some of it could be what Meredith is talking about. I was a deputy superintendent in a district that would go under and then have to go over, and we had to do that a couple of times. But you know, it's a good exercise for me because, like, you know, we could be faced with a really like dramatically worse budget from the state. That's why we've always kind of tried to go so slow with things because, like, I hate pulling back on stuff. The pre-K funding really helps us this year, but it helps us also kind of gain our footing a little bit, just from a financial perspective, and it really helped us with the 9-period day. And then the other thing, and it's not something that I talk about in public beyond what I'm about to say, but we also have a lot of employee contracts that we're working on negotiating right now. And so it's just something that I hear all the time about trying to be more competitive, not from our employees, but also from, you know, people in the community too. Like we hate losing folks to other districts that pay more. It feels like it's been less, but it still happens. And we're never going to completely fix that, being as close to Westchester and Putnam as we are. But like it is a thing that we deal with. So, anyway, I'm sorry. You guys keep talking about this, or do you want us to kind of keep going? We come back to it, or?
Well, is there anything else that at this point in the presentation that's jumping out to anybody that you feel like you want to mention or talk about, or should we?
Well, as last year we were at 5.1, this year we're at 4.5. I just worry sometimes that and I understand we don't want to leave money on the table, but, you know, those percentages, I believe, are probably the highest in the area, in the county, was last year, and I think this year too. And I think it's just a concern I have that we're always kind of there, seems like. And I understand we don't want to leave money on the table, but districts do leave money on the table sometimes in the interest of trying to keep the tax levy down. And I don't know, I totally get the point of what we're trying to save here, I do, but I think it's just worthy of a discussion, if anything.
I totally agree, and I'm sorry if I sound.
No, not at all. I don't take offense to it at all.
Some of the districts not going to the cap are, like I mentioned, already taxing their homeowners far more than we are. And that's a hard message to deliver because a lot of times people don't care, and I totally get that. So I'm not, you know, I've had a lot of these kind of conversations over the last 9 years. And I also think it's a tough conversation any year, but I think this year it is. But you know, when I'm sitting around the table with other superintendents and they're talking about not going to the tax cap, and I see those numbers I just read off. Again, I'm not calling out any of those individuals, but like their revenue is so much higher than ours. And I think ultimately that's because they started at a different place when the tax cap was implemented than Beacon did. If that's kind of my understanding, that sort of predates my arrival in New York, but I think that's kind of what went into that. So that's a hard one for me because these are the districts that, just to talk about the employee side, that we are trying to hire teachers in the same pool as they are, right? And it goes beyond that, but that's a big one. So again, like I know I've said it now 5 times. If we were to, and I know no one's agreeing with this, but if we were to bring it down, I would just hold off on the roundabout thing. And I know I was kind of saying that till I'm blue in the face, but that fits with how we've approached stuff in the past. Like it's
The least disruptive to what's already existing.
yeah, and yeah, and perhaps we see areas like a year from now where we could do some attrition-based reductions. I do think though, right now, that's what I would do to get under 4, is hold off on that.
Matt, if we roll out the 9-period day with the 4.47, will Roundabout be ready to roll out a 9-period day with a robust schedule for the students?
Yeah, we've had some really good meetings with the
Okay.
content coordinators there. I have a slide on that later. It's 6th grade. It's adding a health class. It's adding a welcome to 6th grade class, which I think both
Okay.
are needed. 7th grade, it's adding electives. We already have teachers submitting electives they'd like to teach. In 7th grade, it's basically adding a period of electives. Like all 7th graders will now have kind of like a low homework, high interest type class. 8th grade is the year that we're going to have to make a nice graphic for, which we haven't had time to do because 8th grade, based on student decisions, there's a lot of different options. But we would be adding a technology class. That's the one that probably needs the most development right now. The committee, SAGI, Brian really feel passionately that something that's really hands-on and less digital. That will take us a little bit of time to develop. That may be kind of a work in progress over the years. And then we want to add health, another health section too. So I think most of it, that technology class probably needs the most development. And it's also finding the right person and all those kinds of things. But we're already having, submissions for electives. I think the 6th grade classes the curriculum could be pretty easily developed this summer. So yeah, I think we're not ready to go tomorrow, but we're going to be ready to go for next year for sure. I know Brian and his folks have worked hard on it. Sagi's really involved as well. But again, and I don't, I know we have other slides to get through, but like that's where I would pause to do it, the reduction.
I'll just say sorry to interrupt, if going to 4.47 means going to a 9-period day at Roundabout, then I would be in favor of that, because I believe in it. I think it's important, not only from the student's perspective, I also think it brings more favorable things for the teachers in regards to professional development. So I definitely would be in favor of that. So that's just where I'm at.
And if we didn't add the 9-period day, it would drop the levy to,
Well, that's the board's call.
yeah, but, so our levy would be lower than the 4.7.
4.47.
Or 4.47,
Yeah, I
okay.
switched to that slide. You could use the funds for something else. But if we were to reduce, that's where I would do it in conjunction with not doing the 9-period day.
Okay, and if we did the 9-period, then it would
I
definitely be
would, I would need that
4.47.
4.47.
Okay.
I mean, again, I know that was maybe kind of painful to watch me do that, because it was sort of painful up here, but we'd be sort of nicking out a lot of things to get there if we weren't looking at the 9-period day in terms of holding it back
Okay.
a year.
Yeah, I just want to maybe say one thing, or a couple things. I agree that it's painful, and I think it's healthy to look for that level of cut. I think what it comes
I was thinking, okay, 250,000 is such a small percentage of the overall budget, right? It's less than 1%. To me, what this reminds me is that so much of the budget is just non-discretionary. Like 40% of the budget increase that y'all, and we're gonna go through the slides, are just benefit increases. And when you're listing these little things where we could get 10,000 here, 50,000 there, like the discretionary things are just so small compared to the non-discretionary things. You know, some of the biggest increases that we're seeing are in benefits and, you know, special education, where also costs are increasing. We don't have a lot of discretion there. So most of the discretionary things are raising by very small percentages, most often less than inflation. So I just think that this is a very responsible proposal for a budget where we're managing huge cost increases in a ton of different places and finding out a way to do that without making cuts and even doing this thing that we've been planning for many years. So part of me is concerned that we have a budget that doesn't have, you know, 0.25% of slack in it, but I actually think that shows how much of the budget is non-discretionary and how much trimming the district staff already does in order to present us something that works with numbers and in a world where the costs are increasing so much and we're able to provide continuity for our students. So I know we're going to go through the details, but that's kind of my reflection on this conversation.
It's a good way of putting it.
You know, it's always cold, but tonight it's like hot.
I'm loving it. I love it.
Is that the conversation?
I'm gonna lose some water weight tonight. So anyway, Anne Marie's going to do some slides, and then I'm not going to belabor like the 9-period day one because I just talked about it. We do have a few towards the end, a few like really small scale additions, but I think they're cool to talk about. So we're going to highlight those tonight too.
So we talked a lot about the tax cap calculation, and I think the important part of this slide is that the tax-based growth factor and the allowable growth factor are both two percentages that are determined for us. We have no decision-making in those two. The capital exclusion, we talked about a little bit. That was where we were going to defer the debt. We do have some, but it just kind of defers it into a different period. So, and I'll get into a little bit more what the calculation looked like in a future slide. This is a pie chart of proposed expenditures. Obviously, when you see this, we are mainly people, salaries, and benefits. I mean, I agree with what Chris's perception of that was, because there really isn't a lot of other. That's mainly where most of our expenditures lie. I'll go through these quickly. If you have a question about them, I'd be more than happy. And again, I'm going to probably do them at the hearing. We changed to this format last year. We thought it was really helpful to kind of break it up into departments and then kind of explain what's in most of the areas. So this is more of the Board of Ed, the Superintendent's Office, Business Office, auditing, attorneys, all of the professional services. Not a huge increase in any there that we probably need to talk about. Facilities and printing, and again, we really did a deep dive in facilities, so things are just expensive, and you heard Jesse say that at his budget meeting, but we were trying to keep this as level as possible. Obviously, contractual is just professional services, outside contractors, that has gone up a little bit. And then BOCES services, we're trying to utilize more of BOCES, so we're just trying to utilize the best we can with what we have. Insurance and BOCES administrative, the contractual piece is mainly our liability insurance. That's where we're seeing the biggest hit. There was a price increase for our insurance company. It's been kind of across the board with all the districts. So that's one area that I think everyone in the world kind of sees, but we're seeing it specifically here in the district. This is more about the building and level administrators, the Office of this Assistant Super of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development. Obviously not a lot of movement there. There's no new positions. It's just mainly salary increases. This is the bulk of the elementary. This is all of the teaching area. So this is where all the actual classroom teachers sit here. And again, we tried to keep things kind of level. So you're just seeing some increases in salaries and some material and supply. for the reading initiative that we instituted, there's just consumables that need to be added every year, so we wanted to do that. Special education department, Matt spoke a little bit about the increase in the salaries is just the addition of positions. In the contractual area, we do have a couple of students with some significant nursing needs, and we had to do professional nurse for that, so that's what's sitting there. School psychologists, social workers, guidance, this is kind of the bucket. Technology. You're seeing a huge increase in equipment line here. That's from the technology department, and that's E-rate. So what's hard to really understand is some infrastructure additions that have to be done. But it's deceiving because we're getting E-rate money. E-rate money is the money that came back from the telephone companies in the lawsuit years ago, so school districts can. But I can't make it net here. So you're gonna see the big increase, but then there's a revenue piece that awfully offsets it. So I think the whole increase here is about $350, where we're getting close to $250 to $300,000 in reimbursement. So it's not costing the district that much, but you're seeing a pretty big swing here, because that's the way it has to be recorded. So I thought that might be worth mentioning there. Transportation department, the equipment line here, the increase of 20, but the 57 is the wheel alignment machine. I think we talked about that when we were talking about buses. It's a piece of machinery that we could do the wheel alignments for the buses in-house, which would be great, because as we send them out to the dealer, it just gets more and more expensive. So what we try to do is we try to really systematically do big pieces of equipment like that down the bus garage, like once a year or something, to try to keep it level. And district benefits, medical and dental, our medical benefits went up over 11, they went up about 11%, which is hard to manage, but I don't think that comes to a surprise for anyone. It's just kind of where it is. You'll see a decrease in teachers' retirement. That rate did go down. Teachers' retirement rate went down, which is helpful for us. Employees' retirement system went up, but obviously teachers' retirement is higher payroll. So their fund is doing really well with the stock market, so that's how they determine what their rate is. So they were making a lot of money, so thankfully the districts benefit from that. And debt service. So debt service, again, is, you know, the major piece of this is just the incremental building of the new capital project and trying to do it systematically. We decided then to do it over 4 years, so we're splitting it out over the next, we did it last year, this year, and then 2 more years after that. And then we talked about this slide a little bit, the potential tax impact. Again, I use current assessments. I don't have next year's assessments, but we have seen assessments rise. And basically, it's mainly for new properties coming on the tax roll. If you walk around Beacon, you see a lot of building. When they get their C of O, then they become on the tax rolls. So we're imagining, I've reached out to the city to try to get an estimate. So by the budget hearing, I'd be able to give you a little bit more information for that. And then on the left-hand side is actually the tax cap calculation, how I got it 4.47%, just doing the math. And we will put all of this kind of information in the newsletter that's going to go out so that people can actually see it in a more clear way, and hopefully that will help people understand what we're doing. And this is more of a visual on the revenue side. So the tax, the state aid, the local taxes, interest earnings, I reduced the budget a little bit for that. We were getting close to $750,000. I'm worried about the interest rate. The interest rate has gone down at least once. You know, they talk about it again, so we wanted to be a little bit conservative, but we still have an avenue to generate some revenue there. I don't think anything else exciting there. There's some ways to recoup some of our workers' compensation refunds that we get through the cooperative. So we're going to take some of that money back and help pay. That would be like in the miscellaneous line. So we've really done a deep dive in revenue to make sure that we're maximizing the revenue and what we can use. so that we were able to support the budget. Did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. We have 3 open seats for the board, and petitions need to be in by
April 29th
It-
by 5.
April 29th by 5. And not to dwell on this, but this year, the election, we're going to have a few high school students working the election. All right, that's pretty cool. So we've talked about the bus proposition. When we do community budget things, we will go deeper into this, but we've spoken about this before. Our UPK, our pre-K registration number is a little bit over 100
Yes,
now.
yes.
Last year, we were at like 130, 134, so we're a little bit lower. We're gonna do another kind of blast out to see if we get some more registrants, but I think obviously the state budget needs to get passed, but I think we're feeling really good about the funding for that and being able to have classes for those students. 'Cause a small handful of the registrants are wanting community-based placements too, so that feeds into that. I've talked about the 9-period day. We'll do more at a future board meeting to just really dig deep into this. We'll do some community events at Roundabout so parents understand it too. And again, I said that the 8th grade year is the most confusing year because kids can take algebra, if they take bio, that impacts because they have a lab. There's all these kind of different versions of it for 8th graders. So we're gonna have to flesh that out so people understand that part better. 6th and 7th are pretty straightforward, though, with the addition of the electives in 7th grade, and 6th grade will have that health / welcome to middle school, both alternating days class. So we're excited about the ability to do this, and the teachers are really excited. On the superintendent conference day on March 13th, 20th, one of those March days, I met with the admins at Roundup, all the content coordinators, and Saggy was part of that meeting too. And it was at the end of the day on a Friday, and the energy was just really palpable in that meeting. The teachers are really excited about this. These are just some small scale things. We don't always talk about the smaller things, and we're going to do a better job of that in this budget. But prior to a few board meetings, we had some SEAL civic readiness projects proposed to us, and we're going to fund those. I think we put the overall budget number on that as $10,000 total. So we're already having a meeting set up on the garden folks, and we're going to be talking with the outdoor classroom kids. And this will probably be run through COSER, but we're going to be moving to having an app next year for communication to help us create a better news feed and streamline things a bit. So we're kind of narrowing it down between 2 companies right now. The company that does our website, Final Site, and our SIS Power School, they both have an app. So we're trying to figure that out. The cost for that is probably between $10,000 and $15,000, not huge, but we wanted to kind of alert people to that. Chloe made her proposal for a mentoring program, and so we created a small budget line for that. We thought it would be best to have an advisor, like a faculty advisor for it, but also from your presentation, there's a need for supplies and materials and stuff like that. So we're providing a budget. Dr. Dwyer is going to be managing that with Chloe and the faculty advisors. So we're excited to be doing that. And then last but not least, this one's that we're really excited about. A few years ago, it had been for a long, long time, Dutchess Community College, when students took a course at Beacon through DCC, they didn't pay tuition. And then suddenly we just got a letter saying they needed to start paying tuition, and it brings back bad memories for many of us going through that whole process. But lo and behold, some districts in Dutchess piloted this year paying for the tuition of the students through a COSER, through a BOCES COSER, that we get revenue back on, and we also receive some time of a college counselor here on site. It's not like a huge amount of time. It's not like 4 days a week. It will probably, for our size, be half day, something like that. it's not great, but it's a start. You know, we have on our wish list for the future to have a college career counselor specifically focus on that in a future budget. But we reduced one of our BOCES lines, the communication BOCES thing. This initial cost is probably going to be around $30,000, but we'll receive BOCES aid back on it the next year. I think this is a great thing. The districts that did it this year in Dutchess really raved about it, that it just was a way to kind of make it all equitable. We don't think there were kids holding back on taking the courses because of cost, but we're never certain about that. That would eliminate this. And it would also get us to at least see what having a very, very part-time college counselor will look like, and maybe help us plan to have a district-funded one, you know, in the following year that would be full-time. So that's something that we're doing next year too. And then just, I've been sort of hinting at this for the 27-28 year and beyond. We want to look at having a college and career counselor at Beacon High School that's just focused on that. More academic intervention specialists, possibly at Roundabout, possibly helping at the elementary level, instructional coaching for all the new teaching approaches we're doing, have more people helping our teachers in the classroom, behavior specialists, mental health supports are always a need. And the advocacy, we've talked about different advocacy stuff there too. So just in terms of the timeline, this year for the BOCES budget vote, BOCES offered to come do a budget presentation. We took them up on it, so they're gonna come talk about what's in their budget. That the point of that whole meeting is just the BOCES vote. It has to be on that night. On May 5th, we have a budget hearing. I've been delayed on this, but we're gonna do commendations before the budget hearing, which I think is a nice way to kick that off. And we have the vote on the 19th. I don't have this on a slide, but we put it on social media today and I sent it out. We're doing 5, at least to start with, we're doing 5 community conversations regarding the budget, 2 virtual, 3 in person. We're focusing the in-person ones here at Beacon High. I will make myself available to all PTOs if they want me to do a guest spot in one of their meetings and just talk about the budget and answer questions. I'm also happy to go other places as well in the community if needed. I looked at a couple districts that are going over the tax cap, and I looked at what they were doing communication-wise, and we're meeting what they're doing. We're not going over the tax cap, but I wanted to have a high level of communication this year. We'll keep updating the budget part of our website. So I'm excited. Our first conversation is Wednesday, 5 o'clock in the library here. And then we tried different times, and we'll also have a couple of Zoom ones too. But if you have any ideas about somewhere besides a school-based location we should do, I'm happy to add to that. And just a quick reminder about the capital project. So things are going to be going out to bid soon. There's a whole lot depending on what comes back to us in the bid process. Right now, we're looking at the secure entryways at the other 5 buildings besides Glenham. We're looking at starting the air conditioning at South Avenue and possibly at Sargent. We're going to start working on the softball and baseball field. That is turf infields and improving the grass outfields. We're also going to be starting work on the theater improvements as well. That's it. So any board members want to join us for any of our talks, please, I'll send you the flyer we have. Please come on out. Before any of those, we'll send out a text blast so people know or people are reminded that it's happening. And we're really excited. This has, I think, been a good budget process. I liked how we turned up the heat tonight a little bit in the room, make it a little more interesting. And really turned up the heat so I could just get a nice sweat over here. And but we're really excited about the aspects of keeping, just to go back, don't want to give anyone a migraine, but just go back to keeping all of these things intact, and then being able to add the 9-period day at Roundabout. We're super excited about being able to do that. We're excited to talk about it. And when we do our community conversations, there's a lot of good, tough questions. We're also going to try to put out, just like if you just, to remind people if they just want to ask us. A lot of times we get people to just sort of call or email. So we're going to keep reminding people if you don't have to go to something. You can just ask us by email or phone call or whatever about the budget. So we're excited to be talking about it. And we will do, as our presentation develops, we will do comparisons with other districts too, just to remind folks, like, the disparity that we're dealing with a lot of other Dutchess districts. So thank you. Chris, you had a question prior to the meeting. Did the E-rate?
Marie answered it about the E-rate equipment increase.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other?
Did anybody else have any questions?
So,
Got one question over here.
I actually have a couple, actually. So I was just wondering, when deciding what things are being taken in and out of the budget, like what you consider. You mentioned the elementary school and middle school, like extracurricular clubs being reduced. How do you decide which clubs to discontinue?
Well, it looks like we're not going to do that. So that's good. I think if we had to do that, so I want to be clear, that was just kind of a what if. If we had to do that, we'd probably look at enrollment in the different clubs if we had to do a reduction. Right now, it looks like we do not have to do that though. But that's a great question, because what's hard about that is even if a club has less people, those people are usually really passionate about it. So trying to figure out which ones would be difficult. Since elementary are the newest ones to the district, those would probably be the ones, if we had to, we'd pull back on first. But our aim is to not have to do that the
Okay.
upcoming year. That's
And then you probably talked about this at the last meeting, but when you're considering the 9th period days at the middle school, like what did you consider when deciding that was something that needed to be added?
Some of it was based on some requirements that some kids were missing. So like the health, like some kids were missing health based on other classes they were taking. I think overall the teachers felt like the welcome to I call it the welcome to sixth grade class. They'll probably come up with a better name. But the welcome to sixth grade class would be good because sometimes it's a big jump from 5th grade to 6th in terms of study skills and things like that. So part of it's some kids were missing some requirements, not like all the kids, but some kids based on them having an AIS class or something like that. So some of it was based on that. Some of it was based on something I didn't mention was we're not going to add. It's that we can't add a whole strand of art for 8th grade because 8th graders just have so many different options, but we are going to add more art classes as well to have some art electives. That's been one we've been getting a lot of feedback on in terms of a need. The hands-on technology, something that's less digital and more hands-on, that's something that we've been hearing from parents and parents and students for a long, long time. Back in the ancient times when I was in school, it was called shop, and I built my infamous bird feeder, 1 year, and it took me 3 quarters longer than all the other kids to finish it. That's a story for another day. But, that it's not that we can just replicate that because we don't quite have the space for it, but we want to have kids doing some more hands-on stuff. So that's something that we've been hearing about for years. The 7th grade part is, so 7th graders are going to have a lot of different electives to choose from. They'll each get one elective. The electives are just going to run for 10 weeks and then switch. So those are going to be high interest kind of things. It could be something with a sports focus or a pop culture focus or something about, some new technology. It's going to be kind of more the quick quarter-long class that the teacher's really excited about teaching, and we think 7th graders will be interested in taking. So that's where a lot of the ideas came from, just kind of we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and just listening to people, listening to the teachers, listening to kids. And then also a little bit based on requirements that we need to shore up.
Yeah, I'm totally for that idea. So, what kind of curriculum would be taught in the sixth grade? Welcome to sixth grade one.
Part of it
used
would
to
be the
have a-
positivity. So we started something, this is after you know, years after you left elementary school, but we started something called the Positivity Project at the elementary level. It's like a character education, social emotional curriculum that the kids get every day. So we've expanded into sixth grade. Right now, the teachers are doing an ELA class, but we put it in this welcome to sixth grade class. We'd also have a study skills component. And part of it would probably be like an extended homeroom class too. It's a big change for kids. So it wouldn't be an everyday class, it'd be every other day. But I think for a lot of sixth graders, it'd be welcome, like not that there's a ton of homework in sixth grade, but less homework, not so much grade focus, but more about kind of like learning about middle school, learning about the Positivity Project, working on study skills, things like that. So the curriculum, the Positivity Project curriculum is already developed. We would look at developing like the study skills portion of it.
Would it be all year?
Yeah, every other day. Yep.
So it's
Or semester based. I can't remember the way they're thinking about it.
would it be, is it a separate class or is it integrated right now, like the English classes for sixth graders that welcome to sixth grade?
Can you ask that again?
Is it integrated in? Sorry, is it like, is it going to be a separate class by next year or okay? All right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we do a good job with transition to sixth grade. I think the sixth grade teachers are very geared into making sixth grade really welcoming. But they were really excited about having this as part of the sixth grade experience. So I'm excited about that part too.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. It's a big change.
Chris, did you have another question? You didn't. Okay. So anybody else? Okay, well, I wanted to say I really appreciate how you guys have taken what can be like abstract numbers and really connected them to what they mean for the district and what they mean for taxpayers. And I feel like we're going into this vote with all the information that we need to make a responsible decision. And I appreciate that. Thank you. So we're moving on to student representatives.
I might just stay here.
I was waiting for you to walk, and I was
I'm
like,
in
am
the
I
groove, so
forgetting
I'm just gonna
something?
Keep going from here. But students next, right?
Yeah. So, Aaron, do you want to start?
I don't know if Chloe already asked this, but how do you like balance the budget like to make it good for like the next year and all that? I mean, I've saw like you guys analyze a bunch of like homes and all that stuff, but like what other stuff do you guys do?
So one of the things we do, so, you know, every principal is in charge, right, of the budget in their building. We also have different department heads, so to speak, like a director level position or an assistant superintendent. So we spend a lot of time, especially Anne Marie spends a lot of time with those folks, starting several months ago, just kind of trying to figure out what they need for next year. That's a big part of it, is trying to figure out from all of our different sort of budget heads what they think they need to operate effectively for the upcoming year. And then the other part of it is kind of what we've spent a long time talking about, the tax cap, how far we want to go with the tax cap, what we are getting from the state. This year, we're getting a 2% foundation aid increase. I should know that. I've been focused on so many other things. So what the state gives us in foundation aid changes a lot, and a lot of it's politics based. So the state budget is not passed, but we feel pretty confident that it will be at a minimum a 2% increase. We've had years where it's been less than that, and so that really impacts our thinking. And then, a big part of it was on this. There's a huge part of the planning is looking at how much everyone gets paid, how much according to their contract, they're going to get paid next year, how much their benefits are going to cost. The big part of benefits is health insurance. Health insurance can, we keep using these terms like 2% and 3%. Health insurance in any given year could go up 9 or 10%. And recently it's been going up that much, so we have to kind of factor all that stuff in. And then the last part I would speak to that we spent a lot of time talking about is, and Anne Marie would do a much better job than me, but the capital project and the debt that we're having to pay to like make the improvements to the fields, to add air conditioning to the elementary buildings, to improve the theater, all of those things, to do the new entryways. We need to borrow money to do that, and then we have to pay the debt, and that factors into the money that we have. So it's like we're kind of juggling a bunch of things, trying to get it all to land. Beacon's always been within the tax cap. The tax cap law came into being 15, 17, 18 years ago, something like that. So that plays a huge role too. Like how, like the state basically has a formula for how much we can raise taxes. If you go over the tax cap, you need a supermajority of your voters to approve it. We have not done that in my time here. I don't know if Beacon's ever done that. So those are all the things we have to think about. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
No one person can do all this. Anne Marie and her and the business department do a large portion of it, but it's a huge team effort.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chloe?
Okay. So this week I'm going to be going to Albany for the Student Athletic Leadership Conference from Wednesday to Thursday. So I'm excited for that. And then the following week I will be going to Washington, D.C. from April 24th to 26th for their Women's Leadership Conference that I got a scholarship for. And so I'm excited about that. And then I also wanted to mention that we've gotten a good amount of interest in the mentorship program for mentors. So far, I got 48 people signed up, and more people are signing up. So I'm very excited for that. And I am planning on making a bulletin board at the middle school to start promoting it for the 8th graders. So I'm also excited for that. And then I also wanted to encourage you guys to come to some track meets. I feel like track doesn't get that much love, so.
All right. I hear you.
And everyone says I'm a track star, so you guys should come watch me run.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think the mentoring thing, just quickly, like we were, not that it's not a huge budget item, right, for us, but it was really exciting to put that in. And just speaking as a dad too, like the amount, you all don't realize how much middle schoolers and lower look up to you guys. They really do. And even back to when the Beacon players were up here and Jonah Espinosa was talking, and my son has gotten to know him on a team this year and how much they look up to you all. And so you creating something that formalizes that a little bit more and gets it stronger is really huge. And so based on those numbers, Erin, this is part of how the budget works. I heard her say those numbers, and so we may need to increase the mentoring budget just a little bit, right? But that's kind of how it works. Like, it's not a huge amount of money, but we hear something and we're like, okay, do we need to adjust this a little bit? Because it's now up to 50 kids. And so anyway, but thank you for doing that. And I can't wait to hear about the conferences too.
Me too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Okay, so moving on to new business.
Oh, new business.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to sit down for that.
Okay, you're standing up there. I don't know if there's something else.
Yeah, I saw this plug and I was like, there's no way I can jump over it.
So we are going to talk about the petition from the Lower Hudson Education Coalition to basically look at utility readiness support for the school bus, the electric school bus fleet that is, currently state law that requires all districts to have electric school buses. What is it? To all purchases or leases to be zero-emission vehicles by 2027. I just wanted to, I'm sure Matt has some things he would like to say as well, but I did want to say that We talked about this at the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for this. And one thing that I've learned from those meetings is that there are so many knock-on effects of this law that just weren't really taken into consideration, from, you know, the speed at which these vehicles can be manufactured, to the weather and the road conditions that can support them, to the number of sites in the state that can actually service them. And I think this is another really good and important element that not a lot of people were really talking about. And like, it is the state's responsibility to make sure that the infrastructure is in place to support this, especially the utility infrastructure that would be needed for charging all of these buses, because this is a deadline that is coming up sooner than you think. So all of that is to say that we were given this template letter, and I'm all in support of having our board and our district sign on to it. I didn't know if anybody else had any thoughts or questions that they wanted to share about it.
I agree.
That's what I like to hear.
I think it's a great letter. It has, you know, for all of the concerns you just raised, this is like something we would all love to do, but when you're forced, when, you know, really stuck to do it, come hell or high water, you have to have a plan in place, and it's not really fair to push that on us without us having some kind of, you know, assistance or mitigating. If this happens, then we have a loophole, you know, just something, little something.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Okay. That is an important thing I should have mentioned too. Like, I think this initiative is a good one, but I feel like there needs to be more work put into it. So,
I was really excited for someone to verbalize all of the
yes.
complexities of it, and
Yes.
because I've only heard people say like delay, and I do think it's important, and I feel like it's a great example of perfect being the enemy of good, where it's really going to be hard for certain districts to implement this fully, but there's no reason we can't begin. And I think people have hesitated to even begin the process because there's all these barriers in front of it, and it just hasn't been fully thought out or supported. The one thing that this letter is missing for me is discussion of the financial support that districts needs. It goes so like deep into the grid and all of those weaknesses, but I don't really think it mentions even once that districts need financial support to do this also. So I don't know if we can amend it and just put in like one, you know, that somewhere.
I would be in support of that. Do you want to, so what do you think the best way to do that is? Like, just do it via email, and we can come up
Yeah,
with
I
a
think
sentence
that's
or
fine.
two?
I mean, honestly, this is so specific about the grid that I almost wonder that maybe it would be like just a separate paragraph at the end saying like, we are so into this and we need money.
Yeah. I agree with that. So is everybody okay with us coming up with like a draft paragraph for the end, talking about the financial support that's also needed, and then we can put it on the next, will we put it on the next meeting
Yeah,
to
is that
approve?
okay?
Yep.
And do you mean financial support to do the infrastructure upgrades, or then to purchase the buses, or both?
All
Yeah,
of it,
right.
yeah.
And I would even, if we are making like a personal, you know, kind of addendum to it, I think it would be great to say like, we've got 2 buses, we love them. We're learning so much about, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of it, and without that experience, you know, we wouldn't know what we know, and that we used grant money to buy them, which is, you know, no longer available at the federal level. And
Just for expediency's sake, would the board be okay with those changes just happening? Flora and Meredith, you all just did it? So it can go off,
Yeah,
so it
would
can
you
get
guys-
sent?
yeah,
Trust
right, we don't
me.
have to.
Trust us.
Yeah, you can even get consensus over email if someone wants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just because the next board meeting might be, I think they're trying to get this out.
Out the door, so,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so we'll aim to have it done and out the door this week then.
Yeah, I mean, I just think waiting for the next meeting,
No.
if the board's in general agreement on it, it's probably enough.
If
and-
we don't have to, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. We'll work on a draft paragraph at the end, and That is good. Okay, I have to get back to my agenda here. Okay, reviewing the agenda, there's one change to 14.10. We are removing policy 7335 from the agenda just for tonight to make a couple of corrections. And then that's it. There wasn't anything else, right, Vicki? Okay, great. So we move on to the superintendent's report?
Yeah, I'll just be quick. First, just a huge thank you to the Beacon players. I can't wait to see the play in action in a couple weekends from now. That was a really awesome way to start tonight. Two, we feel like we're going to need to add a board meeting the week after Memorial Day. It would be to accept the bids for the summer capital work. It's just one of those things that getting it lined up with a board meeting would be really difficult. I think Tuesday, May 26th would be ideal. We would just need 5. It's so the work can begin. It probably would be great to have a facilities meeting that night. Meredith, you mentioned you're not around. Just for our facilities team to explain all the bids. There's a lot riding on, they're doing a lot of different things with bid packages to try to bring costs down and things like that. So there's a lot of effort being put into this. So is that night available for folks?
What time would you want to start?
Well, I mean, honestly, that can be whenever
Works
you
for
all
everybody.
want to. I mean, 7's fine for me, but
7 is better for me. I could do
yeah,
7
that's
on
totally
6.
fine.
So do we need to do facilities earlier, or?
Yeah, if we could, like facilities could be at 6, or if we don't have a quorum for facilities, we could just kind of talk about it in the meeting a little bit too.
I mean, I can do 6. I don't know, you can do 6?
Flora, you can't.
It'll be tough, but I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
It might,
If everybody else
Anne Marie, it
can
might
do
be
it.
good to not maybe have the full team, but I could see Perry and Jesse come just to walk through. I'm not trying to be negative anyway, but this could be a complex series of awards we're giving just because they're looking at a lot of different ways to bid the work. There's a lot of worry about cost. And also completion and things like that. So I think, everything will be resolved by then, but I'd love the board to get a good explanation. So we can do one Tuesday, the 26th,
Tuesday the
7 o'clock,
26th.
facilities
At 6?
at 6.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. And then the other thing, I'll put this in writing to the board. I just kind of want to give you a heads up. We had a great district safety committee meeting last week. One of the things we talked about was doing start doing reunification drills, which is when you have to relocate a school to like the high school and then reunify kids with their parents. Typically, a school does this on a half day. So I want to put a proposal to make a change to the calendar for the board to review, and we can do this in June, really, is to make October 9th, which is right before the 3-day weekend, into a half day. So we could do a few hours of either PD that day and also do a reunification drill where we would evacuate one of the elementary schools to the high school and have the high school staff involved with that elementary school staff and reunifying with parents. We probably would do volunteers just because obviously if a parent doesn't want to be a part of it, we don't want to force that, but I think it could be a really good process for us to go through. It's really difficult to do it on a full day of school. So I'll put that proposal together. I just kind of wanted to say it's something, and our district safety team has local law enforcement, emergency responders, and staff. It was something we all felt strongly about with our security consultant. So I'll write a proposal together for the board to entertain as a calendar change. I know it puts an imposition on parents. Part of my thinking was maybe before a weekend like that, it wouldn't be as big of an imposition, so it'd be something we can talk about in one of the June meetings. I just want to give a heads up. And that's all. Thank you to the Beacon players, and thanks for the budget process this year.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to board comments and committee reports, starting with Catherine. Every time.
Let me think. This has been a doozy of a meeting. Eric, I wanted to say thank you for your consistent questioning of that percentage. I want to acknowledge how difficult it can be to live in this town right now for some of us. And it's a time in general that is difficult because everything is just snowballing and getting so expensive and so much more. It's like more always. So in a way, you know, the same thing that we're asking the public to do is the same thing that they're all doing in their own homes. And $20 a month can be like, didn't notice it, nothing to one person, and a really substantial portion of someone else's budget. So I'm very grateful to the constant questioning of that.
I just want to clarify, it would be $20 a year.
$20 a year.
I mean, increase. or
Increase,
decrease,
yes.
whichever way.
Thank you.
Just
No, please.
That's
That would be
good.
the worst if it all went wrong. So thank you very much for clarifying. That being said, I also, I'm going to echo a little bit of what you said, Chris, about how there's just no fat on this budget. You know, it's so lean and it's so thoughtful, and I'm really grateful for that too. You know, there's just nothing that I see that can be wasted. So I'm really happy with it, and that's my input. And then I have to say, holy cow, Beacon Players, that was guys, that was insane. That was insane. They're so good. I'm so excited. I already have my tickets. I just get in there fast, guys. So I'm excited about that. You know, yeah, it's just what a night. I don't even know what else to say. I'm too flustered. Someone else take the mantle.
No, that's good, that's good. Chris?
Catherine said it all. Thank you to the Beacon players and to the presentation. Nothing else.
Okay, great. Levon?
Yes, great presentation by Beacon Players, and congratulations to Chloe on her 2 conferences that she's going to this week, and that's it.
Nice. Eric?
Yeah, congratulations to the players. It was amazing. And I also echo, I just enjoy the conversations that we have and we've had about the budget, resource officer, whatever it's been. I think they've been productive, and I agree. I think where we're at is at a very good point. So I welcome that. So thank you. That's it for me.
Meredith?
I agree with all of it. The big players were amazing. I do really appreciate the conversations and our ability to talk about hard things and not always agree, but continue to be respectful. And I hope I sounded respectful. I'm all red because of the heat in this room, not. And you know, as we begin the work on the capital project, I just want to thank the community again for overwhelmingly approving it. It's important work that we're doing, and I'm excited that people will start to see the work happening. Hopefully, it will feel worth it to them. I also, as a track mom, go track. Track is really fun to watch. I don't care what anyone says, and it's you're outside and it's a beautiful day. And I can't wait to see Chloe run. And then the last thing is someone came to my house, a parent, and was asking me why school starts so early. And that is something that I've always felt strongly about as well. And actually the board put together a resolution a few years ago, which was rejected by the New York State School Boards Association. But I coincidentally got the email today about the resolutions for the fall, and I would love to put on after the budget, a future agenda to discuss possible resolutions, and one of them being start school later.
Was that your last comment?
Yes.
I wanted to say I would really appreciate doing that as well, because I feel like I think it would be really helpful also just to have a thorough conversation about what would be involved in that, like if that happened. I've always had this feeling of like I wish that my kids were like early risers when they were young, and then they become teenagers and their hormones change, and then they would rather die than get up at 6 a.m. And like I'm always like, oh, if only it was reversed. But I know there's a lot involved and there's a lot to consider, so it would be great to have that conversation again. So, yeah. And as a fellow track mom, yes, track is great. Sometimes we like to bring a cowbell, and that makes it more exciting when the kids are running. And the thing that's so great about track is the kids are very often competing against themselves. And when my son gets really excited, it's not because he's like necessarily trying to beat somebody else, but he's trying to better his own time or his own performance. And like, I think it's a really good way for him to grow and progress. And the meets are really fun. I did want to mention the, so the Dutchess County School Board Association presentation was on cybersecurity. It was Mark Stein, who is the Director of Technology for Dutchess BOCES. And as he was sort of going through what districts should be doing and the kinds of practices they should have, it made me really happy about what we're doing and feeling secure about how we're managing things. And there was an article that came out recently, and I think it said that data incidents at schools in New York State increased like 70% over the last year. So like it is a real issue, and I'm happy that we are dealing with it responsibly. And lastly, as a former student of an arts magnet high school, I am always amazed at like the caliber of performance that we have here in Beacon. The students are so talented and so inspiring and so disciplined, and it just makes me proud to be a parent and a board member here. So good job, guys. And that is it for me for tonight. So we can move on to the budget, to the vote on the proposed budget for the 2026-27 school year. Vicki, is this a roll call vote? Okay. So I always forget how we do a roll call vote. So would I just go around, or you do it? You call everybody's name, right? I don't call it, but you have to get a motion. Okay, so can I get a motion to adopt the proposed budget for the 2026-27 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Chris. Okay.
Ms. Buscemi?
Yes.
Mr. Lewine?
Yes.
Ms. McNair?
Yes.
Mr. Shutter?
Yes.
Ms. Hewer? Yes. Ms. Stadler?
Yes. Passes. Okay. All right, on to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, 16.02.
16.02. Any more? No? Okay. So can I have a motion to approve 14.01 through 18.05 minus 16.02?
So moved.
So moved by Levon. Second?
Second.
Second by Meredith. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can I have a motion to approve 16.02?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Meredith, all in favor, or comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstention? Okay, passes. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes, what are we, 6-0? Good night.